Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Well, I guess we're starting right on time. I'm just late in my own mind. Okay. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, members of the general public, although there are not many of you here tonight. I would like to call to order this meeting of the West Hollywood Planning Commission. This is a regularly scheduled meeting. In case you needed a reminder, it is Thursday, August 1st, and it is 6:30 p.m. Item 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to look to someone from our staff to lead us in this. Bianca Siegel, would you do us the honor?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3 is a special order of business, election of a chair and vice chair. We learned about 15 minutes ago that one of our fellow commission members, John Erickson, is not able to attend this evening as a pet emergency. So with that, I'm going to recommend, with the support of my fellow commissioners, that we table this to our August 15th meeting.
Yes. Yes.
Sure. Great, thank you. All right, moving on to roll call. David.
Good evening. As you noted, Commissioner Erickson will be absent on the voting tonight. Commissioner Jones, I'm sorry, let me start again.
You putting me at the end already?
Commissioner Elchel.
Here.
Commissioner Bass.
Here.
Commissioner Buckner.
Here.
Commissioner Erickson is absent. Commissioner Hoopengarner.
Present.
Vice Chair Carvalero.
Here.
And Chair Jones.
Thank you, here.
And we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you. Item 5 is approval of the agenda. Do I have any amendments to the agenda?
I move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Buckner, seconded by Commissioner Hoopengarner. And the agenda is approved as presented.
Thank you. Item 6 is approval of the minutes from our July 18th meeting.
Chair, staff does have one addendum to make to it. I inadvertently forget to put Commissioner Bass's comments on the items from commissioners on page 14 of 15. So I just want to read into the record what will be added. Commissioner Bass commented on transparency for the public and stated when the Planning Commission takes a vote and forwards it to the City Council, that should be what is presented to the City Council, even if staff disagrees and defers on the recommendation. And that would be staff's correction.
And you said that was on pages 14 and 15?
Page 14 of 15.
14
yes.
of 15. Great, thank you.
And we have Commissioner Buckner motioned, but seconded by Commissioner Bass.
Great, thank you.
And the minutes for July 18th are amended.
Thank you, David. Item 7 is public comment. David, do we have any public speakers this evening?
We have no public speakers.
Great, thank you. Item 8 is the director's report.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. John Kehoe, Director of Planning and Development Services. Quick update on items going to Council on August 19th. We've got an item on the Sunset Boulevards. The City Council previously approved amendments to the Sunset Specific Plan. They did want an update on the Excellence Committee. That will be the committee that will be appointed by the city manager evaluating the billboard competition process. So we'll provide the council an update on that. And we also will be taking a couple of zone text amendments. One will be the zone text amendments that are on tonight's consent agenda, and then also the zone text amendment related to the definition of dwelling units. And then also I want to, now it's officially it's now official, both David and Bianca are leaving the city, and I wanted to acknowledge all the work of David and Bianca. David's been with the city since 2003, and before that he was an intern in, I believe, 2001. and Bianca's been with the city since 2007. They're both going to the County of Los Angeles Regional Planning Department, where I believe they'll be deputy directors of current planning for David and long-range planning for Bianca. It's going to be a big loss for the city. David and Bianca have been here for such a long time. They have a lot of knowledge, and they're really passionate about their work. So I'm really happy for them, and I'm sad for us here in West Hollywood. And that's my update.
Thank you. You will be missed, and we will further commemorate you, don't worry, whether you like it or not. Item 9A, so item 9 is items from commissioners. Item 9A is commissioner comments. Do we have any comments from anyone on the dais this evening? No? All right, item 9B. This is a new item that has been placed on our agendas regularly as of our last meeting. This is subcommittee management. It looks like this is a time for anyone to announce that they will not be able to attend a regularly scheduled subcommittee meeting at this time. That includes long-range planning and design review. Do we have any?
Yes. On August the 22nd, I will not be able to attend the design review meeting.
Great, thank you. So in that case, and I will look to our staff as I'm noob at this, in this instance, since Commissioner Altschul will not be able to attend the August 22nd design review subcommittee meeting, is this just an announcement to make it formal to the public? We're not sending anyone in his stead, correct?
Not at this time. I think we'll find out what's on the agenda, confirm that the other two commissioners can be there, and then we can report back at the next meeting if anything needs to be. Oh, what's today's date?
August 1st.
Oh, so there's still one more meeting before that meeting.
Yes.
So we can discuss it at the next meeting if there's any scheduling issues.
Okay, okay, great, thank you, and thank you, Commissioner Altschul. All right, any other subcommittee announcements? No? Okay. And to be clear, we do have long range at our next meeting, yes? Okay, great, thank you. That was a yes for anybody who didn't see Bianca nodding her head. Thanks. Item 10A is a consent calendar item, 637 to 641 North Lapeer Drive. We also have item 10B. I should note that this evening, upon arrival at the meeting, we received a revised resolution from staff with a couple of changes made to it. I believe this corresponds with, yeah, this is for item 10A.
That's correct. Thank you,
Would you be able to read the changes into the record, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Jones. Doug Vu, department staff here. So for item 10A, this is the project at 637-641 North Lapeer Drive. For the record, staff just presented to the commission an amended resolution that has two minor changes that are on page 1 and page 8 of the resolution. On page 1 in the title, it just typographical error that's being corrected. And then on page 8, to make it crystal clear that when the commission required that the project be amended to ensure that there is adequate backup area for the loading spaces, staff just wanted to add an additional statement saying that these changes would not alter the facade of the building.
Great, and that does constitute the extent of the changes made in the new resolution we received tonight, correct?
That is correct, just those two changes.
And pages 1 and 8 for the record. Great, thank you. All right, if there are no questions or no requests to pull or table either of these items, do we have a motion?
Move the consent agenda.
Move to accept the consent calendar.
Moved by Commissioner Bass, seconded by Commissioner Buckner. And the consent calendar is approved, noting Commissioner Erickson as absent.
Great, thank you, David. So in a rare change, item 11 is public hearings, and we do not have any this evening. So we will be moving straight away into item 12A, which is new business or Metro Rail update, which I will turn this over to staff. Hello, thank you for coming tonight.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is David Fan, and this is Joanna Hankemer. We're from the city's Capital and Special Projects Division. We're here to talk about the city's efforts to bring rail back to West Hollywood. Obviously, this isn't something you'd normally hear about in this forum, but as we're reaching a critical time in the project, the Council has asked us to reach out to all of the boards and commissions and update you with where we are and some future opportunities for input. So the project that's coming to West Hollywood is part of Measure M, Metro's half-cent countywide sales tax, which is expected to generate over $120 billion over 40 years to expand rail, rapid bus, and bike networks throughout the county. The project that's coming here is circled in pink on this map. It's known as the northern extension of the Crenshaw LAX line. So I'm going to briefly go through a few slides that Metro presented back in March, just to give a brief overview of the project. If you have any questions or comments about this information, we can go back to any of these slides afterwards, but I'm going to go through them kind of quickly. So the project is in this area here, circled in black. It extends the under construction Crenshaw LAX line, the olive green line at the bottom of that map, northward through South LA and Mid-City, connecting to the under construction purple line beneath Wilshire, and then the red line in Hollywood, passing through Mid-City and West Hollywood on the way. It'll connect 5 of Metro's 10 busiest bus lines, and Measure M provides $2.2 billion for its construction, but not until 2041. So that's part of what the city's trying to fix. We're trying to accelerate that timeline by up to 20 years, and we'll talk about how we're going to do that, or how we propose to do that in a second. It's a light rail project, which in Los Angeles can be either elevated, at grade, or below grade, or a combination thereof. This project would likely be largely underground in West Hollywood, with some combination of at-grade aerial and underground south of here. This just kind of speaks to the need for the project. The area served by this future line has more jobs in the combined central business districts of San Jose, San Diego, and Sacramento. This is some information on transit ridership in the area. Transit use in this area is double the county average, but those same buses are stuck in very intense traffic, resulted in slow bus speeds. In some cases, like in the evenings, those buses average 7 miles per hour. This future rail line would be separate from traffic, grade separated, and able to move at much higher speeds, resulting in time savings for riders. This map is a graphic representation of the percentage of zero-car households along the proposed routes. The areas that are more red have more zero-car households and thus rely on transit more and would potentially benefit more from them. Relevant of that for West Hollywood is the eastern part of the city has more zero-car households and would potentially benefit more from transit. These are the 5 routes that were being proposed in March. Since then, we've heard that the Vermont alternative, will likely be eliminated. But the remaining 4 alternatives would all travel north beneath Crenshaw Boulevard from the under construction Crenshaw LAX line before reaching San Vicente Boulevard, and then branching off from there to either go up La Brea, Fairfax, La Cienega, or continue on San Vicente all the way to Santa Monica Boulevard before turning eastward on Santa Monica and then northwards on Highland to Hollywood. But only one of these routes would ultimately be selected and built, and that would be part of an environmental process that Metro will vote to start at the end of the year, or not start, obviously. This is a close-up of those alternatives within West Hollywood. So as you can see, San Vicente on the west would go right past West Hollywood Park in Division 7. La Cienega is farther to east from there, and then Fairfax and La Brea. This is just some of the differences between the alternatives in terms of ridership and travel time. San Vicente is longer, so it has a longer travel time, but it also has higher ridership compared to the farther east alignments. But the important thing here is they all have very high riderships by national standards, ranging from 77 to 90,000 riders per day, which is higher than any light rail line in the United States. This is where Metro was in March. They were doing an introduction of the project and community outreach. Now we're in the summer, they're evaluating the comments that they've received and doing additional analysis on those alternatives. In the fall, they're expected to return to the community for additional public input. And then at the end of the year, there will be a board vote to potentially move into an EIR. This is some of the basic information they were asking at their meeting in March. We expect that they'll start asking more detailed information at the next round of meetings, and especially if we move into an EIR at the end of the year. Metro's contact information. So the city. We're working to accelerate the project by up to 20 years compared to Metro's timeline, opening in 2028 rather than 2047 is the goal, or somewhere thereabouts. This isn't a new idea. The alternatives Metro's proposing on the left and the former Pacific Electric streetcar lines on the right, you'll notice there's a lot of overlap between the two. San Vicente Boulevard, Santa Monica Boulevard, Sunset, Fountain, all these streets used to carry Pacific Electric streetcars, and many of them are proposed for future rail service by Metro today. So why push for transit? In West Hollywood, the percentage of voters that voted in support of Metro's 3 transit ballot initiatives was among the highest countywide. I think we were exceeded only by Cudahy in the degree of our support, which has ranged between 81% and 86% of West Hollywood residents voting in support. There's obviously aging in place, livability and quality of life, access to healthcare benefits with transit, alternatives to driving, congested bus corridors, greenhouse gas reductions, particulate matter, pollution reduction benefits, as well as just the connection to LAX, Hollywood, and the future sports and entertainment venues under construction in Inglewood, farther south on the Crenshaw line. And it's also just established city policy with references to enhanced transit service in the general plan, pedestrian and mobility plan, climate action plan, etc. So far, the city has initiated WHAM, the West Hollywood Advocates for Metrorail, to facilitate local support for the project and let them know about upcoming meetings and things like that, as well as the All on Board Coalition, which is a broader group, including the regional support that we've seen from this project from places as far away as Torrance and the San Fernando Valley, who would also benefit. Based on this kind of coalition building approach is based on the example of the second phase of the Expo line in Santa Monica, which was successful for them. We started a funding and project delivery study looking at the city's capacity to raise money locally to make this happen sooner. We'll talk about that more in a second. And we've also worked with Metro to get a commitment to bringing the project up to shovel readiness, which essentially means finishing the EIR and selecting an alternative so that the project would be eligible for financial grants from the federal or state government. We worked with Metro to get a pathway to acceleration in Measure M, and we are following that procedure that they've established to start the feasibility study that resulted in the 5 alternatives that are being considered now, as well as their advanced alternative screening study, which is underway now to reduce those alternatives from 5 to 2 or 3 to move into the AR. So the funding study that the city is doing is looking at the potential for the city to raise up to $550 million to bring this project up in the timeline. We're looking at a variety of ways to do that: a potential local sales tax, bonding against the city's local return from existing sales tax revenue, such as Measure M, advertising revenue, value capture through an enhanced infrastructure financing district, which would divert a portion of the increase in existing property tax to a specific purpose rather than the general fund, as well as we're looking into the potential for real estate-based public-private partnerships, as well as new opportunities for state and federal grants or changes to state and federal legislation to enable projects like this and others. So Metro's study, which is underway to reduce the alternatives from 5 to 2 or 3, and the city's funding study, based on the results of both of those, the Metro board will vote at the end of the year to potentially move into an environmental impact report, which would be the next and final step towards a shovel-ready project that would be eligible for state and federal funding. So the public outreach meetings leading up to the completion of Metro study and the board meeting at the end of the year to potentially move into EIR are both critical times for the project. So how can you get involved? You can attend an upcoming transit tour. You likely all received an email about that today and on Friday. And the idea of those is to educate the various boards and commissioners in the city about the different types of transit in the region and what's being proposed in West Hollywood, so we can begin to form opinions and get feedback on what people like and don't like, what might work here, what might not work here, and just the different things about transit you might not have thought about before. Like there's elevated, there's underground, but where you have those transitions and how many station entrances are, there's a lot of details to the design that people don't necessarily think about, and we'd like to point those out to the various boards and commissioners as we prepare for those upcoming public outreach meetings. And then in the fall, Metro is expected to host a second round of public outreach meetings, including one in West Hollywood, where the community is encouraged to come out and make their voice heard on design details, alignment, stations, everything. We encourage everyone to go to those, and we'll get the word out about those to all of the boards and commissions as well as the general public. You can check weho.org/rail for updates. You can follow WHAM on social media or sign up for emails at whamrail.com, and we'll also send out emails and flyers and things like that. And that is contact information for Joanna and I, and we are here if you have any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Any questions from commissioners?
Yeah, I just wanted to know whether you could feel whether or not they're open to coming to West Hollywood, maybe finally.
I'm sorry, whether they're open.
To coming to West Hollywood, because we've had such resistance over the years. Are they now, is it really on board and we're going to have it happen?
So they are actively working to get our project shovel-ready at our, as we continue to advocate for that to move forward. So they are definitely being responsive. Currently, Measure M has our project scheduled to break ground in 2041. That is the public, that is what is, written for now. That's the plan right now, but they are also open to our plan to accelerate. So they have a policy to accelerate a project that we urged them to create, and then they created it, and now we're following it. So we are in partnership to some degree with Metro, and it really is this year, so our funding study from the city and Metro's study to reduce the number of alternatives, those two studies are going to be considered complementary at a Metro board meeting where the board will decide whether or not to proceed into an EIR. And once it's in an EIR, it becomes really a real project.
We certainly could use it well before the 2040.
We agree.
I mean, that seems like, so far away. Thank you.
The other good news here is 4 of the 5 alternatives would go through West Hollywood. I mean, there are projects in the past like the Purple Line where there was alternatives that completely bypassed West Hollywood, and obviously that was what was ultimately selected for the Purple Line, but here 4 of the 5 would go to West Hollywood, and the 5th, Vermont, we've heard is likely going to be dropped because only something like 2% of the people at the public meetings supported that alternative, and there's actually a whole separate project proposed for Vermont, so it's seen as superfluous by Metro staff.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you. Hopefully the Metro can get built as quickly as you ran through that presentation. Thank you very much.
So B is La Cienega, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, question, does this in any way involve an integration with the bus center at San Vicente and Santa Monica? I mean, how that's Metro property and the buses are there, and I guess the question is, that's a logical place for a station. So how would that integrate, and is that being discussed at the same time?
It is. So, the only alignment of the ones being studied that would pass by there is alignment A. In that alignment, they currently have a station located adjacent to that property. So in Metro's study, yes, that's where they would locate a station. In the city's study, one of the things that we are looking at in our funding study is actually, is there any kind of redevelopment of the Metro property and the division and the county sheriff property next door that could, in partnership with the county and Metro, could help pay for the underground station there, for example. So we know that I think in 2014 the City Council considered a development, not as an application, but just something that had been kind of leaked to the community. And the council said, we really aren't interested in talking about this until there is transit. And so in this case, there would be transit, that conversation would rise again. And so we are actually studying what the financial opportunities are to add, to contribute to a station there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? No? All right. Thanks again. Moving on to item 13, unfinished business. There is none. Item 14 is excluded consent calendar. There is none. Item 15A, items from staff. Planning manager's update.
Nothing for tonight.
All right. Thank you, David. Item 16 is public comment.
No comment.
Thank you. Items from commissioners. Item 17.
I do have one.
Go ahead.
Wow, I'm actually getting a little verklempt about this. Since our last meeting, Cesar Pelli died, the man who designed our design center. And I think it's kind of a milestone for our city, and I wanted to adjourn in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you.
What did she say?
She wants to adjourn in his memory. The man who designed the Pacific Design Center.
Cesar Pelli.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Hoopengarner. That is very much an appropriate adjournment for this meeting. So thank you for calling that to everyone's attention. Go ahead, Commissioner Altschul.
I just wanted to thank David DeGrazia and Bianca Siegel for all of their wonderful work since they've been here, and for their kindness and openness to the public and to the commission in particular. It's been wonderful knowing both of you, and I hope to continue to follow your careers and your path. Congratulations and good luck.
I'm assuming we're going to have an opportunity to fetch you a little bit better.
Count on it.
Was waiting for the proper dates.
Are you going to be are you going to be here for our next meeting at least?
I will not. This coming Thursday will be my last day with the city.
Wow, sorry.
But Bianca will be back for one more meeting.
Okay, well, best to you. I'll miss you.
Anyone else? I'd like to echo again my fellow commissioner sentiments. You will be missed, David, but we wish you all the best, and I'm sure that you will do great things for LA County, of which we are still a part, so there's that for now. Bianca, you have one more meeting, so then we can single you out appropriately. Celebrate you. All right. If there's nothing else from commissioners, I will go ahead and move to adjourn this meeting. David, as per Commissioner Hoopengarner's note, we would like to adjourn in the name of the gentleman whom she named, whose name I am fearful I will mispronounce. We will see you all again here on Thursday, August 15th at 6:30. Thank you for coming.